Leonie Pinelli is a nail tech from Long Island. Her father owns an Italian restaurant, and her mother makes an excellent lemon bundt cake. Jokes aside, she is a resourceful craftsman, she is a competent hunter, excellent fighter, and through all of this, she earns a place at Garrick Mach Monastery, outside of her village paying for it, but we'll get to that. You have to agree with me, though, that her name does sound very Italian. She's really Italian X, Italian coded. Leonie was made for leading a band of mercenaries. It is her dream, after all, a dream fulfilled when she takes on the mantle of the second blade breaker after the untimely death of one Gerald Eisner. And it's this epithet that serves to be Leonie's greatest problem. Her pursuit of breaking blades is flawed, and meeting her hero ruined her life. I present my dissection of Leonie Pinelli's character. Some might call it an attack, and I would say that's fair. I really don't like this character. I do think she's the worst in the game. I've divided Leonie's character into three main components because they are the most essential to who she is. Number one, she is a commoner from a hunting village. Number two, she is acutely aware of her status as a commoner among nobles. And number three, she wants to become a mercenary. Leonie is one of those characters who doesn't really have a lot to do with the story, as most characters do not in Three Houses. Are we shocked? No. In Three Houses, I would say that the whole cast falls into three levels of importance. We're just going to call them primary, secondary, tertiary. Primary means the character is actually important, essential to the plot. Secondary, maybe not essential, but they definitely serve to embellish, or they have enough closeness and proximity to the essential plot that they still matter and their absence would be felt. And then tertiary, inessential, we maybe wouldn't miss them if they weren't there. Leonie definitely falls into this third tier. So I've kind of already covered all of her plot relevance. She doesn't really do anything in the story that we can glean information from. So my methodology consisted of reading all of her supports and her endings in each path to suss out who this character is. Like, let's find out a little bit more about you. So, part one, she is a commoner from a hunting village. These supports mostly have to do with her not growing up particularly wealthy. All of these conversations have to do with her becoming a productive member of her village by developing essential skills, basically. Her support conversations with Raphael are all about how she comes from a hunting village and the fact that she's good at repurposing stuff and good at cooking. The C rank support is literally her coming in with a huge haul from town of things that people were going to get rid of. And she's like, I'm going to make soap. I'm going to read these books. I got great ingredients. And with these fabrics, we can make hand towels for everybody. Like, she's resourceful. She's a zero waste legend, and she's putting the reduce, reuse in reduce, reuse, recycle. Environmentalist slay. Her support conversations with Ignatz center duty versus passion, because Ignatz doesn't know, he wants to be an artist, but he feels obligated to become a knight for his family. Leonie mentions that as a child she would paint as a pastime, and she knows how to make pigments. In her support conversations with Raphael, she sends Raphael's little sister painting supplies that she hand makes herself as a present. So Leonie mentions having this passion for artistry when she was younger, but having to sacrifice it because it was too impractical. She then almost laments this notion that any commoner could become something great, not necessarily just an artist, but art is the context that they're having this conversation in. She says basically any child could become great at something that they're really skilled at, but they're never going to know because they're never going to have the opportunity in their lives to be able to pursue that without sacrificing their survival, basically. Her support conversations with Sedith are pretty similar to her support conversations with Raphael, except one, IMHO, they're a bit more romantically coded, which I do not like because he's vampire old. Basically, what happens in their supports is that Sedith is fishing, but he's doing so without bait. He's fishing to relax. He's doing it for leisure, which Leonie is like, I don't understand that. I've never done that before. She brings up food insecurity, and she's like, not catching fish sometimes meant that maybe I didn't eat. So I've never fished like that for sport before. Sedith mentions that his deceased wife was the one who would put the bait on the line for him. She took care of all the details, and then they would fish together. So Leonie's like, I will take care of this for you, and then I will cook for you. I feel like this is like a romance trope of dead spouse, someone comes in to fulfill the same needs, and in their ending they like run away together. So I feel like While nothing is explicitly romantic, my supposition is not unwarranted. The last support I want to bring up, it's probably the most important one. I feel like it touches on all the categories, but it is mostly about Leonie being able to make things, is Leonie with Hilda. Basically, Hilda doesn't want to reorganize the books in the library, and she comes across Leonie training, and Leonie's left this very important charm of hers on the ground. And it was a charm given to her by Gerald, so she hasn't like touched it. And Hilda is like insulting by accident because she's like, oh, what is this dirty thing doing on the ground? Like, I thought it was trash. I was going to throw it away. And Leonie's like, no, this is very important to me. And Hilda's like, maybe you should coat this in resin to preserve it. Or you could like put it into a necklace or like a different type of charm just to make it a little bit more presentable. And Leonie's like, I don't really want to do that. And Hilda's like, okay, fine, whatever. And then they walk away. And then later, Hilda, very MLM, Mary Kay, Avon lady, invites Leonie to her room and is like, take a look at my wares, because she has all of her necklaces out. She's not charging her for them, so it's like it's not that. But Hilda is basically like, I have all of these necklaces. You can take any if you want them. And Leonie refuses because she doesn't want things because they're expensive. She doesn't want an accessory because it's like a cute addition to the outfit. She likes that it's from Gerald and she likes that it has sentimental value. So Hilda's like, I will make you a necklace. And Leonie is shocked that Hilda knows how to do anything. And then Leonie's like, you might have to teach me, but I will make you a necklace in return if you make me one. The support is about sentimentality versus luxury and what gives items value. The class divide is not the purpose of her conversations with Hilda, but it is impacted by the fact that they're of different social standings, which I feel like the subtext of this leads me very nicely into my next section, which is Leonie is acutely aware that she is a commoner among nobles. Leonie deeply resents the upper class, and she has kind of two modes of doing this. On the one hand, she is pretty explicit in that she expects very little from the nobility, and she thinks they're more or less useless, that they don't help commoners, that they're leeches and they're just out here trying to tax people out their asses. She can see the system for its exploitative nature. But on the other hand, she has like a chip on her shoulder where she wants to prove herself as a commoner. Leonie is disruptive in the way that she challenges these notions of class, but her defensive nature and what we learn from these supports reveal that it comes from a place of insecurity at the end of the day, which makes sense. She is the little guy in all of these situations. I think her supports with Catherine are the most telling in this regard because obviously Leonie wants to become a nationwide name in terms of being a mercenary. So she's training with Catherine, who is, in every sense of the word, stronger than Leonie. She reveals that she thinks she'll never win because Catherine benefits from having a crest and a hero's relic. So Catherine was born into power in a way that Leonie wasn't, and that she'll never be afforded. Catherine basically says, if you keep behaving like someone who has already given up, you're not going to get anywhere. So you kind of need to let that go. So it's in these supports that Leonie reveals that she's insecure about the status of her birth, and she's aware of how it limits her, because she'll never have a crest. She's already been born. So that's not going to change, especially in a world where the circumstances of your birth have like really immediately tangible impacts on your whole life. In her support conversations with Claude, they're quite surface level. Basically, it's just her saying Claude isn't like other nobles because he's willing to do dishes. Her supports with Sylvain and Marianne are both similar in that Leonie assumes that these two don't want to associate with her because she's a commoner. Her support conversations with Sylvain kind of have pick-me energy because she's basically like, why don't you flirt with me the way you flirt with other girls? Like, she assumes it's because she's a commoner. And then Sylvain does start flirting with her, and she's like, actually, I really don't like this. I would like for it to stop. And then Sylvain is like, I'm just trying to be nice. And she's like, I don't want anything to do with you, actually. And then with Marianne, she conflates Marianne's shyness with snobbery. And Marianne is like, I'm really shy and really anxious and really insecure. And Leonie's like, actually, you're kind of fab. Like, you're really, really great. So I'm sorry that you feel this way. And then they end up having like a nice conversation. Her whole support with Lorenz is what they think about each other. And by what they think about each other, I mostly mean like what they think about the other person's class. Because Lorenz is like, yeah, we're friends outside of our social standing, but I am a noble, so I have an image to upkeep. Leonie asks Lorenz to help her refurbish all of these weapons, and Lorenz is like, I don't want to. If these weapons aren't valuable, if these weapons aren't ceremonial and decorative, I don't even want to touch them. Lorenza's excuse is basically saying, like, I have a duty to the people. I cannot waste time doing a mundane task. Leonie's like, that's a really great excuse, but you would be helping the people by doing this for me. And then it doesn't, like, really go anywhere. And then, like, in their next support conversation, Lorenz tends to an injury that she has, and Leonie doesn't even say thank you. And Lorenz is like, I'm a noble. It's my duty to help the common folk. And then in the next support, Leonie reuses the handkerchief that he gave her and tends his wound. And he's like, no, you shouldn't be helping me because you're a commoner. And Leonie's like, well, I'm here and I'm the one who has to perform this task. Take it or leave it. And so they kind of squash their class stuff. Oh, also in this support conversation, because they have 4 conversations, because this game is trying to convince us that Leonie is straight. We'll get to it. In their A rank conversation, Leonie is like, I hate nobles. You guys don't do anything. Lorenz reveals that he like knows much about Leonie's life because her village is on Gloucester land or whatever. And he's like, yeah, there was a bunch of poachers that were threatening to invade. We were the ones who hired the mercenaries. And then Leonie pieces 2 and 2 together and then realizes that Lorenz's family is responsible for bringing Geralt's mercenaries to their village. Lorenz also quietly confesses his feelings for her, but she doesn't like hear it for whatever reason. I think she's already like walked away. We don't stan. They get married in their ending, but I don't like it. This leads us into part 3. Leonie wants to be a mercenary. I don't know if you knew in playing the game. She doesn't talk about it really that much. It's not the only thing that she says. So Leonie wants to become a mercenary because of Geralt's small role in her upbringing. Geralt and his mercenaries save their village from poachers. And then he spends an amount of time, I don't think it's that long, with Leonie in Sound Village. And he teaches her some things. Leonie obviously is already very competent just because of the way that she was raised and having to learn these skills to literally fend for her life. But he taught her mercenary life, basically. I don't remember where she says it, but she mentions specifically that she appreciated that Geralt treated her like anybody and didn't look down on her and treat her poorly because she was a girl, which is cool that Leonie is like cognizant of the gender politics of that. So with her supports, we've already talked about the Catherine support being mostly about training. Her whole support with Felix is about her basically wanting to get better at close quarters fighting. Her support with Shamir is about her wanting to improve her aim and getting over her fear of bugs, which I don't love the trope of characters having obvious fears that they probably shouldn't, especially because Leonie was like raised in nature. So I feel like that would have been really hard for her. So she has these supports about wanting to get stronger, and it's all because she wants to become a mercenary. She literally wants to be Geralt. She wants to replace him. In like the first chapter of the game, when you can run around in the monastery, she's talking to Geralt, and this is where the subtle establishment of her absolutely hating Byleth starts. So this is where I find my biggest problem with this character, is that her obsession with Geralt is unreasonable. It's not justified well in the story. I think it makes her character like really detestable because it's not backed up with a why at any point. Ooh, someone ordered Uber Eats. I am so jealous. In her supports with Byleth, her competitive nature is revealed in that she thinks Byleth is unworthy of having the parent that they do. Basically, Leonie wants to be Geralt's child, and she wishes that she had that access to him. Their C-rank conversation is Leonie getting upset that Byleth doesn't hold the same reverence for their father that Leonie does. And then in their B rank, which you can't see until after Geralt has been killed, Leonie has a really interesting way of mourning in which she shames Byleth for like not loving their parent enough, which is like not an awesome way of giving someone condolences who's just lost their father. Like, she leaves the scene saying that, and Byleth is left in stunned silence. And then in their A rank, Leonie challenges Byleth to a duel, basically to like verify their worthiness. And Byleth whoops her ass, and then she's like, I needed to see it to believe it. You are worthy of having the father you have, and I will honor Geralt's dying wish to be your protector. So that implies that she was betraying Geralt's trust and not doing the very specific thing that he asked her to do, which I feel like if you're writing a character who has this like crazy idol worship mentality, if they asked you to do something and they entrusted you with a task, wouldn't you be foaming at the mouth to do that task? I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like that Leonie doesn't have a reason to be obsessed with Gerald, and I don't like how this character trait makes her completely unlikable because she says fucked up heinous shit to the main character. I would believe it a little bit more if like there was like maybe a greater trauma associated with her childhood and who Gerald is to her. I would believe it more if Gerald was with her for a really long time. The poachers were a threat, but like Gerald's mercenaries take care of that without really any casualties. At no point does Leonie say like, yeah, we lost everything. Yeah, you know what? They saved us, but those poachers killed a lot of people. Like that doesn't happen. I would believe this like problematic father-daughter parasocial relationship that she's invented if her father was dead, if she didn't have parents, like if she was an orphan and she had this jaded attitude towards Byleth about having such an esteemed parent, I would be able to get behind it a little bit more. But like Leonie has a family, her whole community rallies behind her and pays for her to go to this military school, the top school in the country, mind you. So I just think it's weird that this person who should be well adjusted has this specific chip on her shoulder for no reason, when I think it should actually be the opposite. Like, wouldn't you want to be Byleth's best friend as opposed to being jealous and crazy? And also, like, jumping off of that, if Leonie has a father, I feel like her attitude towards her father should be unhealthy. If she's going to be obsessed with Gerald, maybe she should look down on her father. Either her father needs to be dead, or like he should have abandoned the family. Maybe he's useless. Maybe he's not a good support. I feel like for her to have this surrogate father perspective towards Gerald, her own father needs to suck, but he seems perfectly fine. She's 19 at the start of this game. She should have worked through some of these feelings already. Like, she's too old to be acting like this, is my point. I just think her obsession with Gerald really holds her back from being a character you want to get behind. Like, completely. Like, characters can do bad things, but give me a good reason and give me a good redemption. I feel like her redemption sucks because she's rude to Byleth without cause, and then Byleth has to prove themselves to her. Like, it just doesn't make any sense at all. I really don't like it. It ruins the whole character. Something else that I noticed, this is the bonus chapter. In my notes, it's called She's a Lesbian? Discuss. So, in my opinion, Leonie has some romantic tension with some of the girls. And I'm like, what's that about? I do think it's worth noting that Leonie has a lot of support availability with women in the game, but she only has one A-rank support with another girl. And there's some romantic tension in some of these people that she only has B ranks with. I will point to her support conversation with Bernadetta, in which Leonie has ripped her shirt, and Bernadetta's like, I can fix it for you, because one of Bernadetta's talents is that she's good at embroidery. So Leonie like takes off her shirt, and Bernadetta gets a little bit flustered, and she's like, here you go. And she's like, yeah, I'll fix it for you. You didn't have to take off your shirt, but I'll do it. And so there's a gay panic that exists here. And then where they end off is Bernadetta being like, I will sew anything for you anytime. And in Lysithia's support, they just talk about them being like opposites, because Lysithia is like really, really smart. She can read a book once and then throw it away, basically. And Leonie is very physically strong. Their C-rank support shows Leonie carrying Lysithia back to her room because Lysithia like tuckered herself out or something. And at the end of their support string, Lysithia mentions that Leonie would be the perfect partner. And there's gay panic again over the word partner. And I feel like there's a similar moment where the use of the word partner is flustering. Is that even a word? Same thing happens in her A rank with Felix, where she refers to them as partners, and Felix is like, huh? They basically have to be like partners, but not like that. Like not in a hetero way. No, like is she bisexual? Who's to say? It's not the game that we got, so I guess we'll never know. Okay, so with that, we're done. I've said everything I wanted to say. If you like this video, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. In the past year, 92% of my viewership has not been subscribed. So if you want to subscribe, that would be really nice. Thank you. I talk about video games weekly, probably most of the time. Bye. See you later. Have a nice day. Drink lots of water. Water your plants if you have plants that need watering. Water your animals if you have animals that need watering. You're welcome for the reminder. Okay, bye.